The twin suns of the planet Xyrian cast long, golden shadows across the valley where the human landing party had just arrived. Lieutenant Jason Carter stepped carefully from the transport pod, feeling the odd crunch of alien sand under his boots. The air shimmered faintly with violet particles, and strange, luminous plants swayed gently, reacting to the human presence. It was beautiful, but it also reminded him that they were far from home, far from anything they knew. He adjusted the straps of his armor, though it felt heavy and unnecessary. Humans relied on tools, weapons, and protective gear, but the more Jason looked at this world, the more he realized that none of it could truly prepare them for what awaited. His squad followed behind him, cautious, scanning their surroundings with alert eyes. Every alien world was dangerous in its own way, but this one seemed alive in ways humans had never experienced. The palace of the ruling alien species rose in the distance, a massive structure of crystalline towers that reflected the suns in dazzling arrays of light. Its walls were etched with symbols that shifted subtly as if alive, and the entire building seemed to hum with energy. Jason's heart raced. Meeting the ruler and her daughter, the 19-year-old princess, was not just ceremonial. It was a delicate moment where diplomacy, courage, and human poise would be tested. As the squad approached the palace gates, an alien guard stepped forward. It was tall, its skin a smooth shade of iridescent blue, and its eyes glowed faintly like coals in a dim room. It spoke in a series of clicks and hums, which the translation device in Jason's helmet converted into English. "You may enter, humans. The princess awaits." The walls were translucent, revealing layers of energy flowing through the building like rivers of light. The floor shifted slightly underfoot, as if sensing the steps of those who walked upon it. Humans might have been technologically advanced, but here they felt small. Yet Jason refused to let awe cloud his composure. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they had survived. They were led into a grand hall where rows of alien courtiers stood silently. Their forms varied. Some had multiple limbs, others floated slightly above the ground, but all eyes turned to the humans as they entered. At the far end of the hall, on a raised dais, sat the princess. Her hair shimmered like strands of liquid silver, and her eyes, sharp and bright, scanned the humans with a mixture of amusement and curiosity. "You humans," she said in perfect common, the universal language, her tone light but cutting, "come so far in clunky armor, yet you look as fragile as your vessels. Tell me, is it bravery that carries you, or is it the hope that your suits will save you?" He had faced fear many times, but the casual mockery of someone so young, so assured of her superiority, stirred something in him. He stepped forward, hands at his sides, and met her gaze. "We don't rely on armor to survive," he said evenly. "We rely on each other, on our wits, and on the will to keep going, no matter what the world throws at us." It displayed jagged crystal fields, volatile gas vents, and deep canyons filled with swirling mist. "I propose a challenge. You may walk across this land without armor, without weapons. Survive it, and perhaps I will think better of humans." Here was a chance to demonstrate what humans truly were, resourceful, brave, and unafraid to test limits. He unclipped his armor, letting it clatter softly to the floor. Gasps spread through the courtiers, but Jason's expression remained steady. "I accept," he said. His voice carried more than courage. It carried confidence, the kind that came from knowing that humanity thrived under pressure, that humans found solutions when others would surrender. The princess arched an eyebrow, her amusement clear. "Very well, Lieutenant. Walk, then. Show us what humans can do without their crutches." He had to watch every step, balancing speed with caution. The first hazard appeared quickly, a field of crystal spires that jutted from the ground at odd angles. Jason carefully navigated through them, using his agility and careful observation. His squad followed at a safe distance, both impressed and cautious, knowing that this was not just a physical challenge but a test of human adaptability. As he moved forward, a sudden tremor shook the ground. Tiny fissures opened in the sand, releasing bursts of vapor that stung his eyes. Jason leapt back instinctively, landing on solid ground with precision. Every step demanded awareness, every moment required judgment. He was not just walking, he was proving that humanity could survive and thrive where alien technology alone might fail. From her platform above, Princess Lysera's eyes widened slightly. She had expected humans to struggle, perhaps even fail, but Jason's calm determination was something she had not anticipated. His every movement displayed focus, courage, and quick thinking. When a patch of unstable ground threatened to collapse under him, he shifted his weight with exact timing, avoiding disaster. The princess's lips curved in what might have been admiration, though she quickly masked it with her usual playful smirk. Hours passed, or perhaps only minutes. Time was strange here, distorted by the alien environment. Jason moved steadily, feeling his muscles tire, yet pushing forward. His mind calculated every risk, every potential obstacle. Humans were adaptable. They thrived not because the world was easy, but because they could endure and innovate in the face of difficulty. At one point, he encountered a small creature, no bigger than a dog, with translucent skin and glowing veins. It regarded him curiously, hissing softly. Jason froze, then slowly extended a hand. The creature sniffed him, then darted away harmlessly. He smiled. Even here, in a world so alien, life was a test of perception and restraint. He had to respect it, understand it, or risk failure. By midday, Jason had crossed half the courtyard. His bare feet were scratched and bleeding slightly, yet he continued. The humans following him noted his stamina and careful calculation. They had trained for combat and survival, but this was something different. It was not about weapons or armor. It was about spirit, willpower, and courage. Princess Lysera watched silently, her amusement tempered by surprise. She had mocked him at first, expecting humiliation, but Jason had turned the challenge into a demonstration of something far more profound. Humanity, she realized, was not defined by technology or size, but by heart, mind, and courage. By the time he reached the final stretch, the sun was beginning to dip, casting long shadows across the crystalline landscape. Jason paused, looking back at the path he had traversed. Every step had been a statement, every challenge a lesson. He had walked without armor, without weapons, relying only on human resilience and ingenuity, and he had succeeded. The princess descended from her hovering platform, her expression unreadable. "You are impressive," she said softly, almost reverently. The courtiers murmured among themselves. It was rare for a human to earn such acknowledgement, rarer still to do it without any tools or technology. Jason straightened, wiping sweat from his brow. "Thank you, princess. Humans are not fragile. We survive because we endure, because we adapt, and because we never give up." His voice carried pride, but not arrogance. He had proven something, not just to her, but to himself and the aliens watching. For the first time, Princess Lysera's eyes softened. She had expected a show of clumsiness or failure, but instead, she had witnessed human courage and intelligence in its purest form. It was a moment that would linger in her mind, reshaping her perception of these strange, stubborn beings from another world. Jason's squad caught up, cheering silently, respecting his example. The walk had been more than a challenge, it had been a revelation. Humanity was small in number but mighty in spirit, capable of facing even the most alien and hostile environments with determination and skill. Princess Lysera floated down closer, her curiosity now evident. "Perhaps humans are not so primitive after all," she admitted. "There is more to you than meets the eye. That is what defines us." Lieutenant Jason Carter stood at the edge of a rocky plateau, looking down at the terrain that stretched endlessly before him. The challenge of yesterday had tested his endurance, and today, he knew, would demand even more. Princess Lysera watched silently from above, floating gracefully on her observation platform, her eyes sharp and calculating. She had expected humans to falter under pressure, yet Jason's calm, measured approach had impressed her. "Are you ready, Lieutenant?" she asked, her voice carrying clearly despite the distance. Jason adjusted the straps of his light survival gear. He had left his armor behind, knowing that true human strength came from determination, not protection. "I am," he replied firmly, meeting her gaze. There was no fear in his voice, only focus. He understood that this next stage was about more than survival. It was a test of human ingenuity, of the ability to adapt to a world unlike any they had ever known. The landscape ahead was treacherous. Jagged crystal spires rose from the ground like teeth, and geysers of glowing gas erupted unpredictably, filling the air with a pungent, alien scent. Pools of strange, viscous liquid shimmered in unnatural colors, hinting at dangers that were impossible to predict. Jason began his descent, each step calculated, each movement deliberate. The rocks shifted under his feet, demanding constant attention. As he advanced, a low hum resonated through the ground. Jason paused, kneeling to examine the surface. Tiny fissures crisscrossed the terrain, releasing bursts of hot gas at irregular intervals. He noted their patterns, timing his steps carefully to avoid being burned or destabilized. Survival on Xyrian was not about strength alone. It was about observation, anticipation, and adaptation, qualities humans had in abundance. The first true challenge emerged in the form of a narrow canyon, its walls glittering with reflective crystals. The air inside was thick with particles that made breathing slightly difficult, yet Jason did not hesitate. He leapt from ledge to ledge, landing lightly, using his balance and agility to avoid sharp shards that could pierce even the toughest armor. At the canyon's center, a sudden tremor shook the ground, sending shards clattering like glass. Jason rolled to avoid being struck, landing in a crouch and pushing himself forward. His movements were precise, almost elegant, a testament to his training and innate skill. Above him, Princess Lysera's curiosity grew. She had never seen a human move with such confidence, such control over their own body in a hostile environment. Aliens relied on technology, on protective suits, on shields. Humans relied on themselves. It was a concept that fascinated her, a contradiction that challenged her understanding of strength and survival. Emerging from the canyon, Jason faced the next obstacle, a field of enormous, pulsating plants that released clouds of spores whenever they were disturbed. The spores shimmered in the sunlight, creating an almost hypnotic effect. Jason slowed his pace, carefully navigating the gaps between the plants. He remembered his training in alien environments: observe, learn, and proceed without panic. One misstep could trigger the plant's defense mechanism, yet he moved calmly, guided by instinct and experience. Halfway through the field, a spore burst unexpectedly, enveloping him in a haze of glittering dust. He coughed but held his breath, covering his face with a handkerchief. Humans had lungs capable of adapting quickly to harsh conditions, and Jason's careful preparation allowed him to push through the irritation and continue his path. Every step reinforced the lesson he wanted Princess Lysera to understand. Human resilience was not dependent on armor, but on spirit and adaptability. Suddenly, a massive shadow fell across the field. Jason looked up and saw a creature unlike anything he had ever encountered. It had multiple limbs, each tipped with claw-like appendages and eyes that glowed with intelligence. It hissed softly, clearly aware of his presence. Most would have panicked, but Jason assessed the situation. The creature moved deliberately, testing him, perhaps curious or territorial. He remembered the principle of respect. Life, even alien life, had to be understood before it could be navigated safely. Jason did not make sudden movements. He slowed, crouched, and extended a hand in a gesture that was simple, non-threatening. The creature tilted its head, analyzing him. For a tense moment, time seemed to stretch. Then, slowly, it backed away, allowing Jason to pass. His mind raced with thoughts of strategy and survival, but he kept his steps calm, knowing that fear would only invite danger. Princess Lysera's amusement had faded. She was captivated by the human before her. Every challenge he faced, he overcame not through force, but through intelligence, patience, and courage. She realized that humans' greatest strength lay in their ability to think, adapt, and endure, even in the face of environments that would overwhelm most other species. The next hurdle came in the form of a narrow bridge of natural crystal, suspended over a deep chasm filled with swirling mist. The edges were jagged, sharp enough to cut through flesh, and the mist obscured the bottom, making misjudged steps potentially fatal. Jason took a deep breath and began crossing. His feet moved carefully, balancing on the uneven surface. Halfway across, a tremor rocked the bridge, causing it to wobble violently. He crouched, using his arms to steady himself, and inched forward. Step by step, he advanced, relying on human balance, reflexes, and focus. By the time he reached the other side, his muscles ached, and his skin bore scratches and minor cuts. Yet he moved on, knowing that every obstacle he overcame was proof of what humans were capable of. Even the courtiers, who had begun with skepticism, now watched silently, their earlier doubts replaced by awe. Jason paused briefly, taking in the vast expanse ahead. The terrain grew wilder, more unpredictable, as if the planet itself sought to test him to his limits. Jagged rock formations, shifting sand, and rivers of molten mineral created a patchwork of danger that would challenge any being's endurance. Yet he stepped forward, confident in his own abilities. Human determination had carried him this far, and it would carry him further. A sudden roar echoed across the landscape, and Jason looked up to see a massive creature approaching, a predator with armored scales and glowing eyes. It moved quickly, each step sending vibrations through the ground. Most would have run or called for backup, but Jason knew that panic was the enemy. He observed the creature's movements, noting patterns, predicting its strikes. Then, with a combination of agility and strategy, he dodged its charge, using the terrain to his advantage. The predator lunged again, but Jason had anticipated it, leaping onto a stable rock and letting it pass harmlessly below. Princess Lysera's eyes widened. She had seen skilled humans before, but none had faced danger with such composure, using neither technology nor brute strength, only intelligence and courage. It was a concept alien to her, survival not dependent on gadgets, but on the mind and the will to endure. Hours turned into an alien measure of time, yet Jason pressed on. He drank water from portable packs, rested briefly, and kept moving. Each challenge was met with the same combination of calm assessment and human ingenuity. Even fatigue did not break his focus. It sharpened it, forcing him to rely on skill rather than strength. By late afternoon, Jason had reached a plateau overlooking a massive valley filled with shifting terrain. The air was thick with energy, and strange currents of light danced across the landscape. He paused, taking a moment to plan his descent. The valley was dangerous, but he had learned to read alien environments, to predict hazards, and to move with purpose. Humans could endure because they could observe, analyze, and act without hesitation. Princess Lysera descended closer, her curiosity now fully engaged. "You are remarkable," she said quietly, almost to herself. "I expected failure, yet here you are, moving through impossible terrain as if it were simple." She had witnessed not only his physical skill, but his mind at work, calculating, observing, predicting. Humanity, she realized, was not defined by tools or technology, but by ingenuity, resilience, and courage. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the valley. Jason pressed forward, descending carefully, each step deliberate. By nightfall, he had crossed the majority of the hazardous terrain, battered and exhausted, yet victorious in spirit. His squad followed, inspired by his example, understanding that human strength was not in armor or weapons, but in perseverance and cleverness. Princess Lysera floated down beside him as he reached the valley floor. "You have walked far, and yet you continue," she said, admiration clear in her voice. "Perhaps humans are more extraordinary than I realized." She had expected to mock and humiliate, but instead, she had witnessed human determination and intellect at its finest. For the first time, she considered that perhaps humans were more than simple soldiers or explorers. They were beings capable of facing impossible odds and prevailing. As darkness fell, the valley glowed with alien light, and Jason stood tall, bruised, and scratched, yet unbroken. He had faced dangers that few could imagine, relying only on himself, and he had survived. Humanity had walked across a world designed to challenge and destroy, and in doing so had proven once again that their strength lay not in tools, but in courage, intellect, and spirit. Princess Lysera watched him, her thoughts shifting. Respect had replaced mockery, and curiosity had replaced doubt. The path ahead would test both human and alien perceptions. But one thing was certain. Jason Carter had shown her that humans, small and seemingly fragile, possessed a heart and mind capable of extraordinary feats. And so, as the twin moons rose over Xarian, casting silver light across the valley, the young human soldier pressed forward into the unknown, carrying with him the unyielding spirit of humanity, a force that no alien technology could ever fully contain. The night on Xarian was quiet, but not peaceful. Strange creatures moved in the distance, their glowing eyes visible in the dim light. Lieutenant Jason Carter set up a small camp with his squad, using minimal gear. He did not need armor. He relied on his instincts, his knowledge, and his endurance. The humans had survived the first trials, but Jason knew the next day would be far more dangerous. The alien princess, Princess Lysera, had not expected them to last this long, and now she observed closely, intrigued by what humans could endure. Jason sat quietly, inspecting the route for the morning. The terrain ahead was unlike anything he had ever encountered. Steep cliffs, rivers of molten minerals, and patches of unstable ground that could give way under even the lightest step. He traced a mental map of the safest path, calculating risks and planning contingencies. Humans were small compared to many alien species, but their minds were capable of remarkable adaptation. Jason had learned to see danger not as a threat, but as a challenge to be solved. The squad murmured among themselves, impressed by Jason's composure. He had faced countless obstacles, yet never panicked, never faltered. His leadership was not loud or commanding. It was calm, precise, and inspiring. Every decision he made showed that humans could rely on intelligence and ingenuity as much as on strength or technology. As dawn broke, the group set out. The first obstacle was a series of jagged cliffs. The surface was slick with crystalline growths that reflected the sunlight, creating dazzling patterns that disoriented the eye. Jason moved deliberately, testing each step before committing his weight. He taught his squad to observe the slightest change in terrain, to feel the difference under their feet, to use balance and reflex to maintain stability. Even in this alien environment, humans could endure where many would fail. Halfway across the cliffs, the ground shook. A minor tremor, barely noticeable, caused loose rocks to slide. Jason pivoted quickly, grabbing a secure outcrop and pulling himself onto stable ground. A squad member stumbled but caught himself just in time. Jason offered a nod of encouragement, silently demonstrating that fear was unnecessary when action was precise and calculated. At the top of the cliff, they faced the second challenge. A river of molten minerals, glowing orange and red, flowing with a dangerous, unpredictable current. Aliens would have flown over it with their technology, but humans had no such advantage. Jason studied the banks and discovered a series of natural stepping stones, partially submerged but stable enough to cross. He tested each one carefully before stepping. The heat radiated through the soles of his feet, but he ignored it, focusing entirely on precision and timing. His squad followed, some hesitant, some confident, inspired by his example. One misstep could have been fatal, but Jason moved calmly, calculating, leading by example. This was the essence of humanity: adaptability, courage, and the ability to confront danger with a clear mind. On the far side, he paused to observe the next challenge. Beyond the river lay a dense forest of towering, translucent trees that emitted low-frequency vibrations. The vibrations created minor tremors in the ground and disoriented senses. Alien soldiers would rely on technology to detect hazards, but humans had to rely on awareness and intuition. Jason took a deep breath and entered the forest, sensing the vibrations through the soles of his feet, adjusting his steps with precision. Inside the forest, the air was thick with pollen-like particles that irritated the eyes and throat. Jason used a simple cloth to cover his mouth and continued, moving slowly but steadily. He noticed subtle signs of wildlife, small creatures scuttling above, a predator hiding in shadows, currents of air signaling danger. He taught his squad to observe all of it, to adapt and anticipate rather than react blindly. Suddenly, a large predator emerged from the shadows. Its limbs were long, tipped with sharp claws, and its body was covered in reflective scales that glinted in the dim light. Most would have panicked, but Jason froze only for a moment, analyzing its movements. He noticed its eyes tracking him, its steps predictable if observed carefully. Using a combination of agility and careful timing, he moved to the side, letting the creature pass. A sharp breath from his squad reminded him they had watched closely and learned. Princess Lysera floated silently above the forest canopy, her curiosity growing. She had expected humans to struggle or fail, but Jason's calm, precise, and intelligent approach was something she had not anticipated. His strength lay not in technology or alien power, but in adaptability, patience, and courage. Humans had no shields here, no armor, yet they moved through impossible terrain unscathed. The forest cleared into a high plateau from which they could see the next danger, a field of unstable crystalline spikes, some tall and jagged, others small but sharp enough to pierce flesh. The ground was littered with loose shards that shifted with every step. Jason studied it carefully. Rushing would be foolish, every step had to be deliberate. He led his squad across, using careful observation and balance. Some shards threatened to collapse under weight, but Jason adjusted his steps in real time, moving smoothly and efficiently. The air shimmered with heat and energy, but he ignored it, focusing on precision and endurance. By the time they reached the far edge, even his squad was beginning to understand the lesson. Human ingenuity and courage could overcome obstacles that technology alone could not. Princess Lysera descended slightly, floating closer. "I cannot believe it," she said softly. "Your species moves through dangers that would destroy my finest warriors. And yet you continue unharmed." She had come to observe humans with curiosity, perhaps even amusement, but now her respect was evident. She realized that this young soldier, without armor, without weapons, had demonstrated something alien technology could not replicate: the human spirit. The final challenge of the day lay ahead, a valley filled with unpredictable terrain, shifting rocks, and minor earthquakes caused by underground energy flows. Jason paused at the edge, mapping a path with his mind. He knew the risks: one misstep could result in serious injury, but he also knew humans thrived under pressure. Fear did not paralyze them, it focused them. He began his descent, moving carefully, feeling the vibrations of the ground under his feet. The rocks shifted slightly, but he anticipated the movements, adjusting his steps. A small tremor caused a minor slide, but he recovered smoothly, demonstrating control and awareness. His squad followed, relying on his leadership and learning from every move. Halfway through the valley, a sudden eruption of energy burst from the ground, sending a shockwave through the terrain. Jason jumped, landing safely, and continued forward. Each obstacle reinforced the lesson he carried. Survival was not about armor or weapons. It was about courage, intelligence, and adaptability. Princess Lysera observed silently, fascinated. She had expected a simple soldier to falter, yet here he was, demonstrating qualities she had never truly seen before. Humans, she realized, were capable of feats that technology alone could not achieve. Their strength was in mind, body, and heart combined. By the time they reached the far end of the valley, night had begun to fall. The twin moons of Xarian cast silver light across the alien landscape, illuminating the path Jason had conquered. His feet were scratched, his body tired, yet his spirit remained unbroken. He had faced hazards that would have overwhelmed many, yet he moved forward with calm determination, proving once again that humans could endure what others could not. Princess Lysera floated down to meet him, her expression a mixture of awe and curiosity. "You have surpassed anything I expected," she said quietly. "Your people are remarkable. I underestimated you. And we thrive because we refuse to give up." As they camped for the night, Jason reflected on the journey. Each step had been a test, each challenge a lesson in resilience. Humans could endure far beyond expectations, not because they were invincible, but because they were persistent, clever, and brave. That combination made them formidable, even in a world designed to test their limits. And so, as the twin moons shone over the valley, Jason Carter rested briefly, ready to continue the journey. The challenges ahead were unknown, perhaps even more dangerous, but he carried the unyielding spirit of humanity with him. No obstacle could break it. No terrain could stop it. No alien skepticism could diminish it. Princess Lysera watched from above, her respect deepening. The young human soldier had walked through impossible hazards with nothing but his mind, his body, and his courage. She realized that humans were a force to be reckoned with, capable of feats that few could imagine. And in that quiet moment under the alien moons, a bond began to form, not of friendship yet, but of respect and understanding. Humans were small, perhaps, but mighty. Jason Carter had walked the path of the impossible, and in doing so had shown that humanity's true strength lay not in weapons or armor, but in heart, mind, and spirit. The air was thick and heavy as Lieutenant Jason Carter emerged from the forested cliffs of Xarian. The previous days had tested him and his squad in ways he had never imagined, yet he felt a strange exhilaration. Every challenge had strengthened his resolve, sharpened his senses, and proven that humans could endure when the odds were stacked impossibly high. Princess Lysera, floating above, watched silently. Her initial amusement had transformed into genuine curiosity, then respect. This human soldier had not only survived, he had thrived. The next terrain stretched out before them like a living nightmare. A massive canyon opened wide, its walls carved from jagged black crystal that reflected light in confusing patterns. Rivers of molten mineral ran through the depths, casting an orange glow that made it almost impossible to judge distances. The wind howled through the canyon, carrying with it sparks and a faint metallic scent. Even from above, Princess Lysera could see the danger. Jason crouched at the canyon's edge, scanning the area. He had learned to read alien landscapes like an open book. The cracks in the rock, the way the molten rivers shifted, the placement of jagged crystals, all of it was data. Each step would require precise judgment, quick reflexes, and courage. He adjusted his balance, feeling the cool alien wind whip against his bare skin. Humans could endure temperatures and conditions that many alien species could not tolerate without shielding. "Stay alert," he told his squad. "We move as one, but watch every step. The ground will betray those who hurry." Loose rocks tumbled underfoot, and jagged spires threatened to pierce through even the strongest boots. Jason moved slowly, deliberately, testing each foothold before committing his weight. His squad followed, inspired by his calm determination and precise movements. Panic was useless here. Only observation, skill, and resilience would keep them alive. Halfway down, a sudden tremor shook the canyon. Rocks tumbled from above, and molten splashes erupted in unexpected places. Jason reacted instantly, leaping to a safe outcrop and extending a hand to help a squad member regain balance. His movements were fluid, a combination of agility and intelligence, proving that humans could respond to dangers instinctively yet strategically. Princess Lysera leaned closer from her hovering position, watching in awe. She had anticipated that humans might survive the first trials, but this was beyond what she had imagined. Humans relied on more than technology. They relied on their minds, their instincts, and their courage. Jason embodied all three in perfect harmony. As they progressed deeper into the canyon, another hazard appeared. The molten rivers split and twisted, forming narrow paths that required careful stepping across slippery crystal ledges. The heat radiated upward, and the scent of molten rock was nearly suffocating. Jason paused, taking in the safest route. He adjusted his steps, timing his movement to avoid the occasional eruption of lava spurts. Each motion was calculated, deliberate, and efficient. A sudden burst of molten rock spurted toward him. Jason leapt sideways, landing safely on a jagged outcrop. His squad gasped but quickly followed his example, realizing that fear could only slow them down. Jason's calm, focused demeanor reassured them, reinforcing the lesson he had been teaching since the start. Humans endure because they think, adapt, and act decisively. Midway through the canyon, a massive alien predator emerged from the shadows. Its body was armored with obsidian-like plates, and its glowing eyes scanned the humans carefully. Most beings would have panicked, but Jason studied its behavior. The creature's movements were predictable if observed closely. He crouched low, moving quietly to the side, letting it pass. The squad followed his lead, understanding that observation and strategy were more powerful than brute strength. Princess Lysera's eyes widened. She had underestimated humans, believing their survival depended on technology. Jason had shown her otherwise. His intelligence, agility, and courage allowed him to navigate the canyon where others might have perished. She realized that humans were a species defined not by size or power, but by resilience, adaptability, and an unbreakable spirit. The final stretch of the canyon was the most dangerous. A wide chasm split the path, its edges unstable and jagged. The molten river below churned violently, sending sparks and waves of heat upward. Jason studied the gap carefully. A direct leap would be too risky. Instead, he found a series of small, protruding crystals forming a precarious bridge. Each step required precision and balance. He began to cross, moving slowly and deliberately. The crystals wobbled under his weight, and molten sparks occasionally spurted from below. Jason's focus was absolute. He adjusted his weight with each step, anticipating the next shift. His squad followed, stepping where he guided, learning to trust observation and skill over fear. Midway across, the bridge shifted violently. Jason felt a surge of adrenaline, but he did not panic. He crouched low, using his hands to stabilize himself, and continued, step by careful step. A minor slip would have meant certain injury, yet he advanced steadily, demonstrating human adaptability and courage in the face of impossible odds. At the far side, he paused, taking a moment to breathe and observe. The canyon behind him was a testament to the hazards he had overcome, each obstacle conquered by mind, body, and spirit. Even Princess Lysera floated closer, her respect now evident. She had expected struggle, she had expected failure. Instead, she saw mastery born of determination and intelligence. Jason's squad began to settle at the canyon's edge, exhausted but inspired. They had witnessed firsthand what humans could achieve without relying on armor or technology. Every step of this journey had reinforced a simple truth. Humans endured not because they were invincible, but because they refused to give up. As they rested briefly, the ground trembled again. This time, the canyon responded to an underground energy surge, shifting rocks and sending waves of heat upward. Jason studied the pattern, anticipating each movement. He led his squad through the shifting ground, timing each step perfectly. Where others might have panicked, humans adapted. Where others might have fallen, they moved with precision and courage. Princess Lysera observed silently. She had begun this journey with mockery in her eyes, believing humans would falter. Now she saw a species capable of facing unimaginable danger and overcoming it with nothing but intelligence, courage, and endurance. Her perception of humans had shifted completely. Finally, they reached the canyon's exit. The open terrain stretched ahead, illuminated by the twin moons of Xyrian. The dangers were not over, but the immediate hazards had been conquered. Jason looked at the moons, then at his squad. "We are not finished," he said, his voice steady. The journey continues, but we endure because we must, and we adapt because we can. Your people are remarkable. I expected struggle and weakness. Instead, I see strength I cannot match with technology alone. She had begun this journey thinking of humans as quaint, fragile beings. Now she realized that their strength lay in the combination of intellect, courage, and perseverance. They could face dangers that would challenge the mightiest aliens and still prevail. The squad set up camp for the night, exhausted but proud. Jason inspected the path ahead for the next day, noting that challenges would grow even more unpredictable. Yet he remained confident. Humans did not rely on luck or technology alone. They relied on intelligence, observation, and heart. That combination made them capable of feats others deemed impossible. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light across the canyon, Jason sat quietly, reflecting on what had been accomplished. Every step, every leap, every careful maneuver had been a testament to human spirit. They had endured extreme danger, navigated impossible terrain, and continued to advance. Princess Lysera floated silently above, her eyes following his movements. She realized that she had witnessed something extraordinary. This young human soldier, without armor or weaponry, had demonstrated qualities that no alien technology could replicate. Intelligence, courage, adaptability, and resilience, these were human traits, and they made them formidable in ways she had never considered. Jason Carter had walked through the impossible and emerged stronger. He had shown that humans, though small and seemingly fragile, possessed a spirit capable of enduring any trial. The canyon, once a place of fear and hazard, now stood as a testament to what humans could achieve when they relied on mind, body, and heart. And in that quiet, silver-lit night, Princess Lysera's respect deepened. Mockery had been replaced by admiration, skepticism by understanding. She knew that humans were more than soldiers or explorers. They were beings capable of facing the impossible and thriving. Jason gazed up at the moons, feeling the cool alien air against his skin. The journey was far from over, yet he felt no fear. Humans endured because they had to, adapted because they could, and thrived because they refused to give up. That simple truth had carried them across dangers no one had believed possible. As the camp settled under the light of Xarian's moons, Jason closed his eyes briefly, letting the exhaustion settle. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but he was ready. Humanity's spirit was unyielding, and no alien obstacle could diminish it. Princess Lysera watched him quietly, contemplating the journey ahead. For the first time, she understood what humans were capable of, and the respect she felt would guide her perception from this moment forward. Humanity had walked HFY, and she had seen it with her own eyes. The final morning on Xarian arrived with a strange stillness. The air felt heavier than before, as if the planet itself was watching. Lieutenant Jason Carter stood at the edge of the last stretch of terrain, his body sore, his feet scarred, yet his posture steady. Behind him, the canyon and valleys he had crossed seemed unreal, like a memory carved into stone. Ahead lay the final trial, the one Princess Lysera had never expected him to reach. The land before him was known among the aliens as the Shifting Expanse. It was a wide, open field of unstable ground, layered with hidden energy flows beneath the surface. The Earth here did not stay still. It moved, sank, rose, and cracked without warning. Even the most advanced alien technology struggled to cross it safely. That was why it had been chosen. It was meant to end the walk. Princess Lysera hovered above the field, her silver hair catching the morning light. She watched Jason closely, no longer with mockery or doubt, but with quiet intensity. He had exceeded every expectation. Still, this place was different. This place did not forgive mistakes. "You do not have to continue," she said, her voice calm but sincere. "No one would question what you have already proven." Jason adjusted his balance instinctively, spreading his weight, feeling the vibration travel through his legs. He slowed his pace, not rushing, not hesitating. Every step was measured. Humans had learned long ago that survival was not about speed, but about control. Behind him, his squad watched silently. They knew this part was his alone. This was not about support or protection. This was about example. As Jason moved deeper into the expanse, the ground began to change more violently. Sections lifted and dropped like slow waves. Cracks opened and closed, releasing bursts of warm air that smelled of minerals and ozone. Jason watched the patterns carefully. He noticed that the shifts followed a rhythm, subtle but present. The planet moved like a breathing thing. He matched it, step, pause, shift, wait. Step again. Princess Lysera felt her breath catch. No sensors guided him. No shields protected him. He was reading the world itself, listening with his body, adapting in real time. It was something her people had forgotten how to do, hidden behind layers of technology. A sudden collapse opened just ahead of Jason, the ground falling away into a shallow pit of unstable crystal. Without panic, he changed direction, placing his foot on a firmer ridge, then another, moving diagonally instead of forward. His heart pounded, but his movements remained calm. Fear existed, but it did not rule him. Halfway across the field, the sky darkened slightly as energy currents rose from beneath the surface. The ground shook harder now, throwing off balance. Jason dropped to one knee, placing his hands flat against the earth. He could feel the vibrations clearly this way. The ground was about to shift again. He waited. Then he moved. The surface collapsed behind him just as he rolled forward, rising smoothly and continuing on. Dust filled the air, but he did not stop. Every muscle burned. His lungs felt heavy. Still he walked. Princess Lysera descended lower without realizing it. Her heart was racing. She had seen soldiers, champions, and machines conquer worlds, but never like this. This was not conquest. This was endurance. As Jason neared the far edge of the expanse, the final hazard revealed itself. A wide fracture split the ground, not deep but unstable, its edges constantly crumbling inward. There was no solid bridge, no clear path. Jason stopped. He closed his eyes briefly and took a slow breath. He could feel the exhaustion now. His body wanted rest. His mind felt stretched thin. But he remembered Earth, gravity, mountains, deserts, cold nights, and burning days. Humans had survived all of it without asking permission. He backed up 3 steps. Then he ran, not recklessly, but with intent. His stride was controlled, his focus sharp. As he reached the fracture, he pushed off hard, leaping across. The ground beneath him collapsed just after his foot left it. He landed hard on the other side, rolling once, then coming to a knee. For a moment, the world was silent. Then the ground stabilized. Jason stood. He had crossed the shifting expanse. Behind him, his squad let out quiet breaths they hadn't realized they were holding. Some smiled, some simply stared. They had just watched a human do what an entire alien civilization believed impossible without technology. Princess Lysera descended fully now, landing a short distance away. She looked at Jason, really looked at him, and for the first time she did not see a fragile being from a lesser world. She saw strength. "You walked it," she said softly. "No armor, no weapons, no shields. We don't need them to be human. Witness this," she said clearly. "A human crossed what we deemed unwalkable, not through force, not through machines, but through will." "We're not perfect," he said. "We just keep moving." Princess Lysera stood beside him, watching the stars. "You removed your armor," she said quietly, and walked into danger. "Why?" "Not because of what they build, but because of what they endure." And Princess Lysera, once mocking and distant, now watched the human soldier with open respect, knowing she had witnessed something rare. A species that could walk forward, even when the world itself tried to break beneath their feet. HFY.